Hello, welcome back to Path to Programming. Today we're going to learn about cascading style sheets or CSS. In the last video, we learned about HTML. That was basically how we put all of the components on our page. If you look on the right of my screen, you can see that we have this sort of basic web page set up, and that's what we did in the last video. But today we're going to learn how to actually make it look nice. So first things first, we need to figure out where we can write our CSS code. All of the code that we've been writing so far has been inside of this index.html file. If you notice in the file directory on the left, we have a file called style.css, and that's what we're going to be using today. If you click on that, you'll notice all we have in there is just this little block of code. And at the top it says HTML, body. What's important to notice here is that everything that's up here corresponds to a tag that we have inside of our index.html file. So this says HTML and body. And if we go to index.html, we have an HTML tag and a body tag. And basically, what this code right here is saying is that everything inside of the HTML tag and everything inside of the body tag, we need to make the height and width properties 100% so that it takes up all of the page. So that's one thing, but we can actually change a lot more about this website. Let's change the background color, for instance. I kind of don't like that it's just plain white, so we will add a line of code inside of this HTML and body tag, because we want it to change for the entire web page, and we will add a background dash color, and this is a built-in thing, and we'll make it green. So now if we refresh our web page, nothing actually happens. It's the exact same, but the problem is the computer doesn't know that these two files are connected. It doesn't know to take the styles from here and apply it to everything in our index.html file. So what we actually need to do is add a new line of code that links it. And we do that by typing link rel equals style sheet, and then href equals style.css. And then we can close it. And this is the line that tells the computer, okay, to access the style sheet and all the style information for this web page, go into this style.css file. So now if we refresh our page, the background is green. So the next thing I want to change is, I don't really like the fact that all of the text is just sort of somewhere randomly on the left. I kind of want it to be in the center. So let's look for where our text actually is in our index.html file. Notice that the h3 tag and the p tag are right here. It says hello world and the weather is nice. And those are both wrapped inside of a div tag. So I don't actually know how to style this, because I could potentially put more divs on my page, and I don't want them all to have the same styling. So what I could do actually is, if I add an ID property and I set this equal to, let's call it text. Let's go to our style.css file, and what I can do actually is just type hashtag text and then add brackets or add curly braces. And now everything that I write inside of here is going to be applied to specifically this div, because I tagged it with that ID. So now I'm going to write text align center, and if we refresh our page, all of that text went straight to the center of the page, and now it looks a lot better. And actually it kind of looks weird that it's black, so if I want to, I can change the color of the text as well, and I can make it white or whatever color you like. I'm going to leave it as white, even though it's not that nice looking, but I can always change that later. The next thing on our page is this image that we have, and I added already the ID image. So if we just type that out, now what we can do is go to the style.css file and do the same thing. Hashtag image. And now all of the styles that I type in here will be applied to this image right here. But the one thing that's different about image tags is a lot of the time you'll see inline CSS for them, which basically means inside of this index.html file, there's already some CSS written. So we have height equals 100 and width equals 100. And it looks a little weird if we want to have it in the CSS file and in the index.html file. So let's go ahead and remove the height and width from this file and do all of the CSS inside of the style.css file. And I'm going to go ahead and go there, and we'll change the height here to be, let's say, 30 of the view height. And this is important. When I said VH right here, this is important for the website being responsive. A lot of times you'll see people type PX, and that means pixels. But the problem is, if someone's looking at your website on like an iPhone or an iPad, it's going to look different based on the size of their screen. So when you write VH, that basically calibrates it so that based on how like tall their screen is, it's going to be sort of like 30% of that. And then for the width, it'll be similar, and we'll make that, we'll just say 40 of the view width. And then, yeah, let's refresh the page and see, that looks pretty big. That's a lot better. The other thing is, this is also kind of weirdly on the left, and I kind of don't want that as well. So to put that in the center, what I'm actually going to do is type margin left, and I'm going to set that to be 25% of the view width. So basically, after you cross 25% of the page, that's where the image is going to be. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want the margin on that side to be that long. So there's different parts of any object or image in HTML. So you have the actual image, then you have the padding around it, and then the margins are the things outside of that image where you can change the dimensions of. But the more you practice with that, the more it's easier to understand. So now if we refresh the page, it's more in the center of the page. And actually, I'm going to move it a little bit more to the center just because it looks a little bit off. So let's just say 28. Typically, you'd want to be more precise with this, but this is okay for now. And then the very last thing is this link. So it also has an ID, which I added, and we can go to our style.css file and add hashtag link, and then let's actually do something similar, and let's say margin left 35 of the view width. And basically what this is going to do is move our link to a new line and move it to the center of the page, just so that everything is sort of lined up. And we'll move it a little bit more to the center. Actually, we'll say 38. Yeah, that looks a little better. So now this is what our sort of completed web page looks like. We can add so many more features, and there's so many more cool things with styling. But this is sort of a basic thing. And if we want to test it out, we can click this link. Oh, and that's another thing that we can do actually, because Replit doesn't let you open those links inside of their website. One thing that you can do is, if you go to the link, you can type target equals quotation marks underscore blank. And that looks a little bit confusing, but basically what this line does is it opens up that link in a new tab in your computer. So if we refresh our website and we click on this link, now it'll open a new tab on our computer that goes to Google. So you can do that with whatever links you put on your website. And in the next video, we'll do a little bit more CSS probably, and we will start doing JavaScript. And just a quick note here, if you are making your own website, there is a nice little web page that W3 Schools has put together that has a CSS reference. Basically, they are alphabetically organized CSS properties. So if you're wondering what's possible with CSS, there are tons of different potential things you could do. And this is a nice little website that you can use. This website will be in the description if you want to use it.